So welcome to this week's episode of Inside the SPHL. I got a couple guests for you this week. I got a player and I got a broadcaster. So let's jump into it. So my first guest is going to be a Dallas, Texas native who's currently in his fourth professional season. He played his college hockey at Yale University. Yeah, you heard that right, Ivy League school. He's made stops in Melbourne, Australia with the Melbourne Ice, Birmingham with the Bulls, Huntsville with the Havoc, and he's currently playing for the Peoria Riverman. Oh, yeah, and he's the guy that scored the goal that finally took down the Havoc this season. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you JM Piotrowski. JM, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Wow, that was quite the intro. Actually, this is funny. The first thing I'll say is that this is my, I think, second or third sports hockey interview, and that's the second time I've heard it's my fourth professional season. It's only my third. It kind of gets confusing because Australia is where I went after college, and technically that would be like my first year, but my first year also was when I was in Birmingham, 2019, 2020. And then last year would have been my second year. And then now this would be my third year. So
I got you.
just
All right. Well,
the elite prospects can be a little bit confusing.
yeah. Well, I was giving you credit for Australia. So all right. So third year. I'm -1 to
Yeah.
start the podcast. So
No, that's okay. I count it as my third year. I don't know that I would say that was like a full year of professional hockey.
yeah,
So
no,
I'll say my
totally,
third year.
totally
And
understand.
it makes me feel younger. So if I'm already in my fourth year, I don't know how
Yeah,
much
all right,
longer
all
I
right.
got.
So in his rookie season, JM Piotrowski. no,
Yeah,
so
perfect.
so like I said, man, thanks for coming on. So let's you grew up in Texas. Texas, I mean, it's a pretty good hockey state. A lot of people don't know that. So kind of tell me about growing up in Texas and when you decided that, I'm going to be a hockey player.
Yeah, well, I think some things that people don't know about. I used to live in Chicago area, so that's kind of where I guess really took off with hockey. And then I moved to Dallas when I was 15. So I say I'm from Dallas because I feel like I really matured there, especially as a player. Um, but I think my hockey career technically took off in Chicago. I used to live. I think I told you this in the interview we did a while back, but I used to live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, before I moved to Chicago, and that's when I was real young. And I would go to the Fort Wayne Comets game back. I think they were IHL back in the day. So that was where I first got a taste of hockey. No one in my family played hockey, but yeah, going to those games, it's kind of weird to think about now. I'm one of those players really that kids might come to watch and could be like the start of their hockey career. Just a minor league town, that gets people interested in the game. So it's kind of funny how things come full circle.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. You still follow the Comets at all?
I do not, other than a couple of my friends that have kind of passed through the organization. I'm not the biggest Comets fans these days.
Yeah, that's all right. You're playing now, so you don't need to be a fan of anybody. So
Yeah,
you're a Riverman fan now.
I got way too much going on to be following too many minor league teams.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So, what you said growing up in Chicago, does that make you a Blackhawks fan?
Yeah, definitely was a Blackhawks fan growing up. I was always more of a Dallas sports fan than Chicago sports fan because a lot of my family's from Dallas, and I did live there for a period of time before I moved to Fort Wayne. So I was always like a big Stars fan, big Cowboys fan. Um, and then when I moved to Chicago, kind of just by nature you become a Chicago sports fan. So being able to grow up and see the Blackhawks kind of come to fruition in the late 2000s, win the Stanley Cup in 2010. I think I was maybe a freshman in high school at the time. So that was really exciting. Then Kane and Taves kind of growing up there as two players that I always looked up to, and yeah, no, it was an exciting time to be a Chicago Blackhawks fan for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We'll ignore the fact that they got all kinds of crap going on with them now. We're not,
Yeah, yeah, we
but you
won't get
can't
into
take away
that.
from what that team did. So,
Yeah, and it was on a similar note, when the COVID year happened and they came back into the NHL playoffs and the Stars went on that run. That was arguably more exciting for me just because I hadn't seen it before. They won it in '99, but I was too young to even remember that. So it was really cool to see the Stars go on a run, and unfortunately they lost, but hopefully they still got a window of opportunity to win the cup, I think.
yeah, they're in there. I mean, they they say they're the oldest team in the league right now, so their window's closing quickly. But there's no
Yeah.
doubt, after that run they made, they could do it again.
Yeah, I hope so.
So yeah, you kind of let's talk a little bit about your junior career. You kind of bounced around a little bit, a few different places to get your development. What was that like?
Yeah, I had a pretty crazy, at least entry into juniors. I guess I would say there's nothing traditional in the path of a junior hockey player. But for the most part, a lot of people I knew, a lot of my friends, a lot of my teammates, they would play midget AAA until they're graduating high school, and then their first year out of high school, they go play junior somewhere. And I was following along that same path, and I was never drafted in the USHL, never drafted in the NA at this point. And I ended up going to 4 different junior camps, 2 USHL and 2 NA camps after graduating high school. And I didn't make any of the teams. I made it to the All-Star game in 3 of them, and then was on the final chopping block for all of those. So it was like at a point where I really didn't know what to do. I could go back, and I still had 1 more year of eligibility for my AAA team, and I was like, well, if I do that, I'm literally going to be out of high school, like not playing juniors, but still playing on the same team that I was playing on in high school. It just seemed crazy to me. Or I could maybe go like the tier 3 route. And ultimately, I decided to stay in Dallas and live at home. And I got a job working at a car dealership, and I was just playing on my AAA team. So I had a lot of time to focus on hockey, and um, I kind of got the opportunity to move up to the USHL. It was actually right around this time during the season. We went to a showcase in, I think it was in Detroit, and I ended up getting 2 hat tricks in a row against like 2 of the top teams in
Oh,
the
not
league at the
bad.
time. So that at least like made enough noise for me, and then I got an opportunity to go play in Fargo in the USHL, and that's where I like feel like my junior career really started. I know I had an affiliate game in Wichita Falls, but I don't really even remember much about that game. Not even sure I played. But yeah, so I remember going to Fargo. It was right after Thanksgiving. I get there, it's already snow on the ground. It's below 0, I think. Um, but that was a really cool moment because I was really only there on a tryout to start the whole thing. And I was going on a road trip and didn't dress or anything. Like I was like, am I on the team? Am I not on the team? I'm practicing, like, but I don't even have equipment that matches everybody. It was just a weird situation. But then after about 10 days after practice, one of the days, the coach has drawn up a drill with just me, like after practice, and he said something I'll never forget. He was like, I need you to know this because like we're gonna keep you around. And he kind of smiled at me, and I was like, wow, like I made my first junior team after all these times of being told no. And this was like the day before the game, so like I was gonna play tomorrow or the day after in the game, and I was all excited. And my parents were able to come up and watch, and I scored in my second game. I got in a fight in my second game. It was just like everything kind of came together all at once, and it was just that whole start to my junior career was wild.
And what did that do to your psyche whenever you didn't make those teams when you were trying out and you had to make the decision to go back and play AAA? I mean, how was that in your head as a young kid? I mean, sometimes some kids can't handle that kind of stuff. So obviously you did, but what was that
Yeah.
like for you?
I had to swallow my pride quite a bit. It was I'm a very prideful person in what I'm doing, so it was kind of a blow to the ego. Um, that all my friends I felt like were moving on to these teams, and I was like, I feel like I should be good enough to play if this guy's playing, and all those negative thoughts that kind of just associate with an experience like that. It was tough, and I think now that I look back as a 26-year-old versus an 18-year-old, I'm really able to kind of reason with that, and I kind of just kept moving and like kept working and just did it like out of instinct. I always had this vision in my head, like I was going to be a hockey player. I was going to play juniors. I was going to play college hockey. I was going to play pro hockey. And so as traumatic as those little bumps in the road might have seemed at the time, I always just knew that I was gonna power through it and figure out a way to go over those obstacles. And so it's kind of it's hard to explain because you look back and you don't realize that you're going through it at the time, but all the cliche things about, oh, well, now you just got to work twice as hard as the next guy and you'll get your opportunity. That was essentially how I made it to juniors from there. And then even when I got to juniors, it was like, that doesn't mean I don't have like a college commitment, and I went a full year without getting a college commitment. So um, just as cliche as it sounds, a lot of hard work goes into things, and you tend to get rewarded when you do that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So tell me, so up there in North Dakota, whenever you came into that, how much of a different game was that? You said you got in a fight, and in what, your second game or first, and how different was that to you from the hockey you were used to playing before you came in?
Well, yeah, I think that was my first taste of like real big boy hockey. Everybody's wearing visors. I hadn't played in a league where you could wear visors. We were all wearing cages still. But I was lucky, like I mentioned, I was able to kind of practice for about 10 days and get used to the speed. And I remember being shocked that it was faster, but it was almost easier to play because everybody was just a little bit quicker in making their plays and like in the right position. And um, so I wasn't terribly shocked by that, but then I remember getting in the game and like I just had a wave of confidence kind of come over me, and it was like first time playing in front of a lot of fans. In Fargo, we would get probably 3,500 fans. And so it was a real lively arena. It was just I just remember feeling like a surreal moment. And every time that I get to play in front of people that come to watch, it's just kind of one of those surreal moments where like it's maybe not everything I ever dreamed of as a kid on the same stage, but just to be able to have like a little sliver of it is it never gets old, and that's a big reason why I'm still playing right now.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. That 3,500 people, that's more than some of the SPHL barns can do during college football season, I should say. It gets better
Yeah.
once football's over, but
No,
yeah.
Fargo's a super lively town. Like the Fargo Force are like the NHL team of the town. There's North Dakota State football is a huge thing there as well. But once, like you said, football season's over, it doesn't matter how cold it is. These people are coming out full force, ready to. Sorry, that was a pun. I didn't even mean to say that. But yeah, full
That's
force,
good.
full force for the Fargo Force.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always, I imagine it's got to be great too whenever you're playing in front of a big crowd like that. I mean, even you said, you still enjoy it. I mean, that's got to be a different feeling knowing, oh my God, these people are all here to actually watch me play hockey, even the team, but you know what I mean. So that's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I still get the most nervous during warm-ups. I don't want to fall down in front of anybody in warm-ups, but when I get in the game, it just kind of instinct takes over.
Yeah, yeah. You what you ought to do then, just hang out next to the glass and just flip pucks over to kids. That way you won't fall down.
Yeah, I think this year I've done one every game, one puck a game. So
Maybe that's awesome.
they'll just have to add that to my take it off my paycheck at the end of the year.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. So let's move on to college hockey in an Ivy League school. I mean, you don't meet a lot of hockey players that went Ivy League, and that in itself, that you got a degree from Yale University, is awesome too. And so kind of tell me about your what made you decide to go to Yale, and then let's talk about your hockey game or hockey playing time there.
Yeah, I think I can backtrack a little just to wrap up the junior thing that kind of leads into Yale.
Okay.
So my first year I played in Fargo, and then the next year, I know you mentioned like I bounced around a little bit. I went back to Fargo at the beginning of the year, and we were the last place team the year that I was there. So I went back the next year, and then they ended up making some changes, decided to go a different direction. So I was released from the team after training camp, and I went back to Bismarck in the NA. And they had drafted me that summer. Never really called me or anything, but they just drafted me for my rights in case something like that were to happen in Fargo. And so I went there, and I got a little bit bigger of a role, and I was able to play more. Um, but the first half of the season, I kind of was like mentally not in it. I was disappointed that I wasn't in the USHL, and it was like affecting the way that I was playing. And now I'm starting to feel the pressure of, okay, I'm 19 years old now. Um, I don't have a college commitment. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I remember going home for Christmas that year and just talking with my parents and talking with family and kind of just getting away from hockey for a little bit. I was able to talk with them and be like, all right, I'm going to go back to Bismarck. I'm only going to focus on being in the moment, just like totally enjoy where I'm at, not think about going anywhere else. And I end up going back after Christmas for the month of January. I have like the best year or the best month of hockey I've ever had. And I end up getting traded to Sioux Falls back to the USHL um, right at the deadline. And then probably no less than 2 weeks after that is when I got a call from one morning. I got a call from a 203 number. It was like Connecticut. And I'm like waking up and I see this call and I'm like, I don't know anyone from Connecticut. And so I just like I let it go to voicemail, and then it's like leaves a voicemail. So I'm like, okay, I'll look at it. And it ends up being Dan Muse from Yale. He's like, "Hey JM, this is Dan Muse from Yale." And as soon as I heard that, I'm like scrambling to pick up the phone and try and call him back. Um, and so they had reached out to me. They said that they had talked to a couple different coaches and gotten a good word and a good scouting report on me, so that they were interested in kind of moving things along in a bit of a recruiting process for me. Um, and then the craziest part about that was this is in February, I believe, end of February. And so the admissions process for Yale is like I'm way past deadlines for applications. Um, so they're like, yeah, we need to like make sure they were like, we're deciding between like four guys right now. We're gonna pick two of them. So I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. Maybe it'll happen to me. Maybe it won't. And so this whole thing, basically, I have a weekend to decide this. Like after they tell me that they want to go, like they want me to be one of the two guys that they're bringing in. So I think I got the call on like a Thursday, and by Monday I had like decided that I'm gonna go to Yale after talking with my parents. And then the crazier part about that is after I like verbally committed to the hockey program, I still had to like go through the admissions process, and all of this is already, like I said, way behind. So I end up doing my first and only college application like all within, I want to say 5 days, and with a road trip mixed in there. It was like the most chaotic 5 days of my life because we were leaving on Wednesday for a for a road trip to go to, I think we were going to Youngstown, which is from Sioux Falls to Youngstown is like 5 days on a bus. um, so I'm trying to do all these like applications and fill out my essays, and I don't even remember what all I had to do, but um, I remember I'm trying to submit this hours before a game on the road. That's how much time it was taking me. Um, Luckily enough, everything checked out and I was accepted.
Yeah.
But I just remember like that whole entire process. I didn't even really have time to celebrate because I was just so busy on making sure everything like got through and on time. And
Yeah. Yeah. Everything's just
then
go,
I
go,
was
go.
finally, yeah. Then I was kind of finally like that summer. Well, we ended up going on a run in Sioux Falls that year, and we won the Clark Cup, which was like another crazy experience. And then I feel like that was by the time the season was over, it was already middle of May, um, almost June, and like I didn't know a thing about Yale. I'd never been to New Haven, Connecticut. I'd never known anyone that went to Yale, so I got to go on my recruiting trip that summer, and it was dead on campus. So I didn't really get any sort of taste of what it was going to be like. Nobody was there, but I just remember not even really understanding like the surreal moment of being able to say that I was going to go there. And so, yeah, it's cool to even just reflect now and feel like, that I was lucky enough to be able to go through that experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. What'd you study when you were at Yale?
I was a political science major.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds like it was hard.
Scientist of politics.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're mixing two things that I just try to steer away from. So
Yeah.
we,
No,
we
we
don't need
won't.
to get into that. No.
Yeah, we don't need to get it. We don't need to get anywhere near that.
So tell me a little bit about playing college hockey. Yale's Division I, right?
So yeah, Yale is Division 1. It was it was really cool. Like, I remember I was graduating high school and I was watching on ESPN in the Frozen Four as Yale was 5 seconds left in the game, and Yale's about to win the national championship in 2013. And I just remember thinking to myself, "Wow, like it'd be so cool to go to Yale." The the school speaks for itself, and then the fact that they're winning a college hockey national championship. The culture there is just the guys are amazing. Some of my best friends, and I imagine that they'll be my best friends for life. The relationships and the people that I met within hockey and with or outside of hockey is just that's probably my favorite part of the entire thing. Um, but yeah, being able to play at Yale, the home games were always really fun. The town gets behind the players just as much as like the campus does. So that was another unique part. Whereas a lot of colleges, most of their fans are students, which is cool. But Yale was a very community based fan club as well. So
Well, that's cool.
we had a really cool old wooden building. We usually get about 3,500 fans. Um, and then the most fun games were playing against Harvard. It was always just fully packed for that rivalry. We'd play them twice a year, once at home, once on the road. Um, those are the games that I probably remember most.
Did you come out ahead in that rivalry in your 4 years there?
Total, I don't know, but I just remember the one I remember most is my freshman year. We were playing Harvard, and they had like Jimmy Vesey was on the team at this point, and he won the Hobie Baker that year. So they were really good, ranked in the top 10. We were ranked in the top 10, and we beat them at home. I want to say it was like a 1-0 game or like a 2-1 game, and it was like the loudest I'd ever been, well, the loudest game I'd ever been a part of by far. The standing room only was like 5 rows deep, and there
Wow,
wasn't like everyone was standing in the building. It was insane.
that's awesome. Did the goal come late in the game too?
I don't remember the details of that, honestly.
That's all right.
I,
That's
I
all right.
yeah,
All that matters is you guys won.
I remember. I do remember like at the very end of the game, it was like we were up 1 goal and VZ got the puck on the back door like with a wide open net, and I don't know what happened. Somehow our goalie like kept it out or he like missed it off the side, but it was just the way that that game ended was the most incredible like experience.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. So, um, how 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 hard is it to balance school and hockey at a school, that's like an Ivy League Yale school? In my mind, and I'm hoping I'm not the only one out here thinking this, is that's a really hard school to just do school in, let alone play sports in. Was that something that came pretty easy for you, or did you struggle to find a balance?
Well, I think the hardest part was that I had been out of school for 2 years before I went back in. So I graduated high school when I was 18, and then I didn't go into Yale until I was 20. So I had 2 years off. Luckily, hockey and just sports in general teaches you time management really well. So I feel like if you're a good manager of your time, even if you procrastinate a lot like I do, um, you get kind of say, okay, my back's up against the wall. I got to make sure I get this done. That is what made it doable with the hockey and with the social life and being able to sleep. It's a lot of times you find yourself sacrificing one over the other, or
Yeah.
maybe 2 out of the 3 you can get in, but there's no way you can ever get 3 of the 3. Um, so I think if as far as like picking your classes and setting your schedule and what it is that you want to be able to study and how much time you want to be able to put into it. It's all about how you manage your priorities. And luckily, like my parents raised me really well for that. Taught me from a young age how to, be able to get my homework done and not wait till the last minute to till time runs out. And then seeking out help when you need it, finding the resources to be able to make it happen. And that's aside from the curriculum of being in Yale. Those are things that the college experience has really been good for me. As I guess call myself an adult now, um, teaching you how to think through things and like how to problem solve. It's not always about X's and O's or numbers. It's about how you manage chaos.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, you were talking about your family. I remember last year on Instagram there was a bird involved in your life. How's that bird doing today, man?
Well, unfortunately, the bird took off. My mom, like, it's kind of a crazy story. Like, my this summer, my aunt died. She had a long battle with cancer, and about a month after that, this bird showed up in the backyard, and my mom saw it. Like, it was a white dove, and I guess white doves are supposed to signal, like, I don't know. She was telling me all about. She did all this research on how
Yeah.
it's a sign, and she was convinced that it was my aunt that had come back and was like sitting in our backyard. Like my parents just got a pool, so she was like hanging out in the pool. Then she would fly up to the bar, and she's like, "Oh, look, now she's having a drink at the bar." So she was like fully convinced at this thing, and
Yeah,
I think
that's
it kind of
awesome.
gave her like a I don't want to say like a sense of closure, but it made her happy, and she ended up buying this big bird cage for it. It was more of a bird mansion
Yeah.
than anything. It was like 3 stories. It was insane, but
Yeah, that
I
that
think
that that bird mansion was better than the apartment I was living in at the time that all this was going on.
yeah, I got a lot of people that were saying the same exact thing.
Uh,
So I mean, but I think it was special for my mom, and like it was just a really fitting experience.
yeah,
And yeah, I guess she did some more research and she said that after 30 days, they usually kind of move on. So it
so
wasn't all that shocking. It was there for about a month and then took
yeah.
off.
Then it went to go find another one. I'm surprised it didn't come back though. It couldn't have had a better life than it had there.
Yeah, it was living in paradise for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. So so moving back to hockey, so after you graduated Yale and everything, you made a little trip down under and went to Melbourne and played for the Melbourne Ice down there. Tell me a little bit about that experience and really how you even found out that there was hockey to be played in Australia, because a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, it was. I was going through a rough time my senior year. I wasn't playing. I wasn't. My career wasn't exactly going the direction I had always hoped, and it became time where I'm going to be moving on from college hockey. And I knew I wanted to be a hockey player, but I just didn't know where the next opportunity was going to be. And so I had a friend who he was a senior when I was a freshman, and he had done a similar thing. He went to go play in Australia, and I thought it was interesting. I would kind of just like scroll through elite prospects and look at different leagues in Europe or um, just what might potential options could be for me for the next step. And I remember coming across this Australian league, and I was like, "Oh, I heard of that because my friend Matt played there." And so I reached out to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I can get you in contact with somebody. I had a great experience there. It was awesome. Nothing but good things to say." And then so I was like, "Okay, great." And then I realized that the season is opposite because they're playing in the winter there, so the
Yeah.
seasons are opposite.
Yeah.
So their season plays April to August, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, this could be interesting. That doesn't really work for next year, but it could work for this summer. Like, what else am I doing this summer? I'm just gonna graduate and then like try to find somewhere to play hockey." So I was like, "All right, here, perfect. I can go live in Australia." So I reached out, and I got connected, and the whole thing kind of moved quickly. I had a phone interview, and they talked to a couple of my coaches, and um, then all of a sudden I was like, all right, I'm going to Australia when I graduate. So this was like February. I think I figured it out. that I was gonna go, so I had some time to prepare. But yeah, I graduated on May 22nd on a Wednesday, or sorry, on a Monday, and on Wednesday I was on a flight to Australia. It was a crazy day of travel. I think I flew from Hartford in Connecticut. Then I went to DC, and then I went DC to LA, so that was about 6 hours. And then from LA to Melbourne was about 17 hours. So
Wow.
I
Man.
literally missed a full day. I think so. I left on a Wednesday. I left Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, sorry, and I got to Melbourne Friday morning local time. So
Wow. Yeah.
Thursday, May 23rd, 2019 just does not exist for me.
No, it just never
I was
happened.
just I was in the vortex.
That's that's awesome. That's crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, because
So,
it's I think it's 12 hours, 14 hours ahead there or something like that. So I was already that's why the whole day, like the between the flight time and then the time change, it was a full day that I just completely missed.
just yeah, just vanished. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
great.
that show Manifest.
Yeah. Yeah. So you met a player that a lot of people around the league right now know. Well, you were in Australia, right? You met isn't that where you met Casey Kolzicki?
That is where I met Casey, and kind of finishing up on what I was saying when I was trying to figure out where I was going to play next. I met Casey there, and he had never stopped talking about Birmingham. He's like, "Oh yeah, like this year in Birmingham, it was his first year pro, and like they went to the finals that year, so they had a good team, and he loved it. Him and I just became friends like instantly. Not only because just we were two North American guys that were there playing on the same team, but um, as hard as it is for me to admit this, we do have a lot in common. We have a similar sense of humor. Um, and we just like to poke fun at each other all the time, so we got along really well. But yeah, he kind of said that Birmingham was a great spot, and then there was another guy. His name is Sebastian. He was a goalie that played for Birmingham as well, and he kind of reached out to Jamie Hicks at the time and said, "Hey, there's this guy on our team in Australia. He could be a good option for you if you want to like reach out to him and talk to him." And I'm like, I didn't know much about the SPHL other than from what Casey had told me. Um, and so yeah, I got in contact with him, and fortunately, like the word of mouth was strong enough for my character and for me as a hockey player that I was able to sign with Birmingham. And then like we kind of finished out that season in Australia, and Casey and I were like pretty good friends at that time, and then we ended up living together in Birmingham, and then
Hmm.
the rest is kind of history between us now. And it's
Yeah.
he spent some time with me this summer in Texas, and he's a little rat out there, but he's one of my best friends.
That's awesome. Was he running around causing chaos in Australia in games just like he does here in
Yeah,
North
there
America?
was one game we were playing they called it the Derby because there was two Melbourne teams. There was the Mustangs and the Ice, and so when we played each other, we shared an arena, and we were playing them one game, and I think it was literally like 20 seconds into the game, he takes a penalty, and then says something to the referee, ends up getting tossed from the game like 20 seconds in, and that was just like so typical Casey. Is hilarious.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. He's a hoot. And I'm sure all the people in Birmingham are happy to have him back too, because just his personality will get the it just it brings people to him.
Yeah, no, he does so much for the organization, and obviously the fans love him. He's
Yeah.
a great like personable guy, and he helps any team he's on. So it's great to be his teammate.
Yeah, for sure. So, we'll stay in Birmingham. So your first pro season, whenever you went to
Yeah, we'll
Birmingham,
call that
kind
the
of,
first one.
yeah, kind of tell me about that. What was walk me through that season and that experience for you.
Um, well, yeah, it was a good season. I think I loved living in Birmingham. It was my first taste of professional hockey, and I think I learned a lot from Jamie Hicks. I had been dealing with the same coach for 4 years at college, and it was kind of nice to have a new face behind the bench, and just you can learn new things from different guys. I see the game a different way. And playing pro, there's a lot more games than college. That was the thing that I love most, is how much game experience I was getting compared to way shorter seasons in college. A lot more practice, um, and so I learned a lot about how to be a professional, and like I think I continue to this day to keep learning about, you know, being a professional hockey player isn't just about showing up to the rink and, going through practice and then showing up on the games and playing the game. And I think there's a lot of things that can be parallel across working quote unquote 9 to 5 office job, that you can the same principles apply into being a hockey player. You have meetings that you show up for, you have extra homework, or you're watching film or something. So there's things that you can do to get ahead, and your workouts or your nutrition, that's all part of your job. And I think that I'm a pretty much a late bloomer in everything that I do, but I think I really started to kind of tap into those things more when I became a professional, and I only had one thing to focus on. I wasn't in school. This is my job, and this is what people pay me to do. And so I think with age and maturity, I'm really like learning to tap into those things, and yeah, I feel great, and I'm just happy to, like I said earlier, I'm just happy to be able to keep playing this game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be fun to live out what your goals are doing. You're basically living your dream to a certain extent. I know. I mean, every young hockey player wants to be in the NHL, but hell, you're playing pro. I'm not playing pro, and I wanted to play hockey growing up, and look at me now. So
Yeah, I didn't exactly dream of my SPHL career, but at this point, I feel like it's all the same.
yeah, I hear you. So, you got any good stories, memories from that first season, on ice, off ice? Anything you want to share, or nothing?
Um,
Nothing for podcast material.
yeah, that's always a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm on the spot, so we can cut this out. Let me think of something. Oh,
We
okay, I got a good one. I got a
uh,
good story.
all right.
It was so this was a funny story. I was in Birmingham, and I was getting ready to. I had just gotten called up to Orlando in the ECHL. It was my first little taste of a call up, and I get the call kind of late at night, and so I have to go to the rink to get my stuff, because I think I was leaving on a flight the next morning. And so I go to the rink, and I meet Coach Hicks there, and he was kind of like letting me into the dressing room, and I had to grab all my stuff, and he wanted to wish me well. And so I'm packing up my stuff, and he brings me over 3 rolls of tape. He brings me over a black roll, a white roll, and a clear roll. And I'm putting this. So he hands it to me, and I put it in my bag. He's like, "You always want to show up to a new team with your own tape. Like, you don't want to be the guy that's showing up and you automatically need something from somebody." And I was like, "All right, yeah, of course." So I'm like, now I'm prepared. I'm feeling good. Finished packing up my bag, and then I'm like, the last thing I have to grab is my gitch, like my undergear, like my socks and my pants, like under my equipment. And I go back to grab it, and it's not there. And I'm like,
Oh shit.
where, like, where's the gitch? And I asked coach, and he's like, "Oh, Pack took it home to do the laundry," and Pack's the equipment manager. And so we both kind of like sit there for like in silence for a bit, and I'm like, "All right, well, what am I gonna do if I don't have a gitch?" And then he kind of looks at me, he's like, "Just don't worry about it. They'll give you one when you get there." And it was just like the funniest moment. Of like, he brings me over the tape and says like, "You don't want to show up without your own tape," but then I just didn't even have my own like undergear.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, see
It's
if you
just
could
like,
trade some of that tape.
yeah, it was just a really funny, like so harmless, but just like looking
Yeah,
back, it was so funny.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
that's that's perfect. So,
yeah,
so you're in Peoria now this year. You were supposed to play for Peoria last year, but unfortunately, Peoria didn't play last year, and but you still found a home. You played for the Havoc for a while, and then you finished off the season with the Bulls, and and it was a pretty good season. I mean, the Bulls struggled a little bit throughout the year, but all in all, there was hockey. So, what was actually being able to find a roster spot on a team? How'd that feel for you last year?
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm not alone in this situation. There were so many good players last year that just didn't even get to play. So the fact that I was able to spend some time in Huntsville and in Birmingham was it's hard to even complain about that. A lot of people, like I said, were in tough situations, and so I was signed with Peoria, and this was goes back to probably May 2020, so a couple months after the season ended with COVID, and at this point, nobody knew what the future held for when the season was going to start, or if there was going to be a season, or what it was going to look like. Um, but I was just kind of going operating based on, the season's going to start in October, just like normal. We'll be out of this pandemic. Here we are 2 years later. Um, things are things are still a little bit crazy, but
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I got a text from Jean-Guy Trudel, who's the coach of Peoria right now, and he was interested. That kind of came at a time where I was a little bit down because I didn't get protected by Peoria or by Birmingham after the protected list came out, so I was essentially like a free agent. And so the fact that he showed some interest in me right away was awesome. It was nice to feel significant, and um, like he really wanted to see if I could come to Peoria the next year. So I took some time to think about it and talk to those people around me, and it just seemed like that was going to be the best fit for me as a professional, and I was excited about it. And as the summer goes on, things still aren't really very clear of our start date, but we're still operating as normal. We get to October, we're like, okay, the season's going to be delayed till December. Then it was January. Then it was like, well, then now it's back to December. And then I think it was sometime in October is when we got the word that the Peoria wasn't going to be playing, and then only 5 teams in the SPHL were going to be going. And so I was like, dang it, maybe I should have gone back to Birmingham because at least they're playing. But yeah, so then I kind of was just like a free agent for the year, and I had to. I took some time to really think about, am I going to play this year, or maybe I could take the year off and focus on some other things. Like how unique of an opportunity. Like I know I don't want to be done with hockey right now, but it's maybe just not in the cards this year. Trying to find a spot. There's so many extra players, and there's half as many teams. So the best part about all that is I feel like I was home for the holidays, and that really hasn't been the case for much of my life. Just with hockey being being a winter sport and the schedule being so chaotic during the holidays, you usually get a couple of days if you're lucky. So I was home all throughout December. I got to go to my cousin's wedding in the middle of December, spend New Year's at home, spend Christmas at home, be with my family, and then right after the New Year, I just was kind of I was talking with my girlfriend trying to figure out like what do I want to do this year? Do I want to try to like send some emails out and play? And ultimately, I'll give her all the credit. She said you need to go play. So I sent some emails out, and within an hour, I had a response from Huntsville, Glenn DeTulio. He said he wanted to talk to me. I'm sure he was aware of who I was just from playing him the year before, being the coach of Huntsville. And so they had like a little bit of a COVID outbreak, and they needed some players, and so they ended up bringing me in right after that, like maybe January 6th or something. Like I got there. And then the crazy part is I got there, I practiced for 2 days and tested positive for COVID. So then I had to miss like the next 10 days. So I mean, another crazy start to the season, on top of everything else that was going on. But yeah, playing in Huntsville was awesome. I love my experience there. Um, and it was a little bit different. I was right up the road from Birmingham, being in Alabama again. It just felt good to be playing hockey, and when so many others weren't able to be as fortunate to have a season, I just felt lucky to be in that position. And for everything that went on last year, to chalk it up to how it was, like I can't complain at all.
Yeah, I bet not. Like you said, I mean, there's so many players all over the place. AHL, ECHL. You were just seeing high level skill drop down levels just so they could find playing time. So yeah, that
Hmm.
was was a crazy year. So let's talk about Peoria this year, man. I mean, the season's young. You guys are off to a pretty good start. You scored the goal that took down the Huntsville Havoc. So I'm trying to give you all the credit for that. I know it was a team effort, but so kind of tell me
Oh,
about Peoria this year.
yeah, I absolutely love Peoria so far. My coach is one of the best coaches I've ever had. He's so detailed, so prepared. And I think that it's no coincidence that his teams are always in the top of the league. We've had another crazy start to the year. We've had a lot of guys missing, whether it's injuries or call ups. It's just we've been playing short. It seems like all year, but now we're about getting close to I'd say like 6 weeks, almost 2 months in, and all the things that we've been working on daily are starting to be cemented into our game. We have a great locker room, even though it's cycled in a few different guys here and there. I think our core has just been kind of like being the staple of our group and implementing the details and the habits every day. Uh, I think that kind of showed this weekend. We got a real test. We were the underdogs for sure going in against an undefeated Huntsville team, and they came as advertised. They were really good. They're great in transition. They're dangerous on the power play. Highly offensive, skilled guys. You look at the top guys in the league for points. They're all playing for Huntsville right now. But yeah, I mean, we prepared hard, and it was nice for us to be able to come together as a group of really probably our first weekend of somewhat close of a full roster. Um, and I think that that's ultimately what we were able to do is just play as a team. And we lose the first game on Friday, 3-2 in a shootout, and then we play Saturday and it's a 1-0 game. Like it really felt like the closest thing to a playoff game that you can get to, especially in November. So it was a fun weekend, and I'm sure they're going to be looking forward to getting us again later in the season. But we loved it.
Yeah, you guys know how to handle them now. So maybe they won't learn anything. Who knows?
Yeah,
So,
well, it's going to be a lot of hockey between now and then.
yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Lots of things changes. You mentioned the call ups. You had to call up yourself this year. You went down to well, I guess it's up, but down on the map to Orlando and played a game and again you were a part of the game winner. You got an assist on the game winning goal in the game you played in. What what's going on in Orlando? How's that?
Yeah, that was another chaotic experience that it seems to be a trend in my life as a hockey player. But I was driving home from practice on a Monday, and I get a call, and I've like I had mentioned earlier, I'd been in Orlando before, so the coaching staff is still the same there. I get a call from Drake, and he says that we got a lot of guys up right now. Do you want to come help us out? And I was real eager to get the chance to go back to Orlando, and it's been a goal of mine that I set for this season. I really just didn't think it was going to happen so quickly. Um, so yeah, it was good. I think the next morning I flew out at 7 a.m. and I played a game that night at 7 p.m. in Orlando. So that's just kind of the nature of the lifestyle that I choose to live. But yeah, like you mentioned, I felt like I was able to produce, and I got a good opportunity to play. I didn't just get the call up and be the extra guy and not really get an opportunity. So it was good, and to get rewarded with a point on the game winning goal was exciting for the team, exciting for me personally. My first point in the ECHL, and getting to play in the Amway Center in Orlando, where the Orlando Magic play. It's pretty much an NHL arena. So yeah, all of that is just super exciting. But then it kind of came down to the point where the opportunity at the time wasn't going to be as much as what I would be getting in Peoria. So the relationship that I've been able to form with Drake in Orlando is great, and he thinks that it's best for me, and I think it's best for me if I can get all these opportunities in Orlando, or sorry, in Peoria. And hopefully, if there's another opportunity down the road this season, then they can call me again.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of move away from hockey. My last thing I want to talk about with you here is your life outside of the game. And I know one thing you're into, and that's you got your own clothing line. And everybody that can watch this can see the house of JMP. We're both rocking the hoodies. So kind of tell me about what how you came into deciding you wanted to try to run your own little clothing line.
Yeah, it definitely started during the quarantine of COVID. Was I guess maybe May or June of 2020, and everybody just spending so much time at home. I feel like that's really when like TikTok took off. A lot of people just being creative and finding ways to keep themselves entertained, not being able to go out and do much. So I started just doing some tie dye around the house. Like I didn't really know what I was doing, but I grabbed a shirt from Target and I basically like bleach dyed a shirt, and then I posted a picture of it on my Instagram, and I had some people that were like, "Oh, this is cool. Like I want one." And I was like, "Oh, well, are they just being nice or do they actually want one?" And then so I went and I bought some more shirts and started being a little bit more creative with some different dye colors. Obviously, I got a pink one, you got a black one, and I just kept posting my little projects that I was doing on the daily, and a lot of people showed some interest. So I was like, wow, maybe I can actually do something with this since I'm not playing hockey right now as much as I would be. And so I got time to put into it, and it was something that I actually really enjoyed. Like it was exciting for me to go through the process of starting from scratch and then finally coming up with a creation and like nobody really telling me what to do, no guidelines to follow, just doing whatever I felt like was cool. Um, and so yeah, then I started figuring out, okay, how can I make this somewhat of like a business? And I would say that kind of started taking off around a year ago. I made a website. I did a bunch of modeling for my hoodies, and I was really starting to like promote it more and try to. I made a Shopify account so that I could actually just people could go on the site and buy directly without me even having to be involved. And so once this summer, past summer, um, it took me a while to figure out like what I really wanted to make of this. Like, do I just want to do hoodies or do I want to expand into different items? And so my vision was that I want to do hoodies, but I want to do really like high quality material. And so I feel like I went and I did some research and David Kuntz helped me so much with Field Pass, trying to like help me find where I can order my garments and all that. And so he's been a huge help in this whole process for me. And I eventually landed on a garment that I liked. It's heavy. It's like 13 and a half ounces. You got it on there. It's real
Yeah.
warm.
Yeah, it's pretty
Um,
warm for Alabama, I'll tell you that. There's
yeah.
there's not a lot of days down here that I'll need it.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But I just felt like that's what I wanted. I did my time with just messing around with the artistic part of things on, what a whatever hoodie, not nothing special. And so I kind of wanted to make everything about my brand as much realistically as I could put into it to make sure that like everything about it was the best. Whether it was the packaging, I got like custom packaging with my brand and name on it. I got little washing instruction cards and like doing stickers for my Instagram, promoting all that, doing like a full on photo shoot. I learned a lot about business, and it's a one man show, so it's cool to be able to whatever this becomes. Maybe if I get to the point where I do have to hire somebody and it's successful enough, I feel like I'll know how each job needs to be done because I've had to do it. And so I think that, the translation of that for being a businessman, running your own show from top to bottom is it was like a big project for me this summer, and it made me feel like coming out of the summer and into this season, like I really had a grip on what I wanted to do and kind of what my future is going to look like in it. And, obviously it gets busy during the season, so it's taken a little bit of a back seat, but all my ideas are still kind of in the works and flowing. And, I'm excited to see whether it's hoodies or whatever JMP becomes. Like I'm excited about it.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody that doesn't know, you got to check out houseofjmp.com. You can follow them on Instagram. I mean, it's definitely some high quality stuff. I'm going to tell you, whenever the hoodie came to me in the mail, I was like, "Holy crap, this isn't that little flimsy one you get at Walmart. This thing's got some bulk to it." So very good hoodie.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
But so that's all I got for you, man. I really appreciate you coming on today, and I really wish you the best of luck throughout the rest of the season, whether it's in Peoria or you get another chance to go up to the coast and play in Orlando. I mean, I wish you the best in your ventures with House of JMP.
Yeah, absolutely. I love. Now I'm glad we got to do this over a podcast. Last time was you had to write all that up, so this is a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
um,
absolutely.
but
That
yeah,
was
no,
what I was telling everybody too. I was like, man, I really just need to talk to people on podcasts. Writing's hard.
yeah, takes way more time. This is easier. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me on. I'd love to come back later in the season. We can catch up again.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'll reach out to you later on in the season. And like I said, best of luck moving forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, there you have it. That was JM Piotrowski of the Peoria Riverman. The like I said before, the guy that scored the goal that took the Giants down, the Huntsville Havoc. So if uh, if you get a chance, definitely need to check out House of JMP. It's a great clothing brand, and that's all the more I'm going to talk about it. I don't want to force people away by forcing it on you, but you'll definitely like it if you check it out. So moving on, I got another guest now. I got the Evansville Thunderbolts broadcaster, Tommy Pecoraro. He's going to come on and he's going to sit here and he's going to talk about everything around the league. And without further ado, here is Tommy. Tommy, how you doing, man?
Good. How's it going?
Oh, no complaints from me. It's starting to finally cool off down here in Alabama, so I'm enjoying life. There's no 80, 90-degree days.
Yeah, it's actually just cooled out a bit. Up this way, we're actually about 30 degrees today, so starting to get a little bit of that winter action up here.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, let's jump right in, man. Let's talk about Evansville. Let's talk about they're coming off of a weekend split with Roanoke. They're sitting in the middle of the standings, and they're looking good. I've gotten to watch them play a few times against Birmingham, and it's a solid crew there. So, kind of tell me about where you think they're sitting right now in the season.
Well, there's been some ups and downs to the season already. Not too bad though. Certainly a lot better than any other start the team has had in any of the previous 4 seasons. And it's certainly just great to be just be playing hockey again after sitting out last season. Starting from the high notes, certainly the goaltending has been fantastic. Brian Billett has been in midseason form since he came back. Kai Edmonds, who got the victory on Saturday against Roanoke, has looked very good in the 2 games he has played so far. Defensively, team was looking pretty good. Offensively, it's been a little hit or miss, and power play has been a bit of a struggle as of late, but that's certainly a work in progress and still plenty of time to get that all fixed up.
Yeah, yeah, it's early in the season. Tell me about, Ferraro jumped out to the season and just decided he was going to score a hat trick on opening night, and and you got Plevy who's also a pretty good offensive talent. Tell me about those two guys and what they bring to the team just what they bring to the team.
Well, certainly they're very good offensive dynamic talents for the team and certainly good in all 3 zones. And both great guys, too. Have gotten to know now for 2 seasons. Ferraro showed up to Evansville in the second to last weekend before the pandemic broke out and forced play to stop, and Plevy was in Evansville for the whole season. But both very good guys to work with, and like I mentioned, both very good offensively. And so for both, there's been some ups and downs for them too. Both are still trying to find the pace. Certainly, Plevy, the pace he was on in the first season in 1920. But both have shown plenty of flashes of what they could bring.
Yeah, yeah, they're definitely guys I keep my eye on, and Cole Staller's another one that I'm keeping my eye on out there. There's a lot of good things happening in Evansville, and like you said, they're off to a lot better start than they have in the past. So it's gonna be exciting moving forward to see where things go.
Yeah,
Um,
certainly. And just to touch back up on that, for the month of October alone, in past seasons, the team has never won more than a single game in October. And this year we won 5. I believe it was 4 or 5 for the month of October. So by far, a very good start to the season.
yeah, yeah, I bet you the fans in Evansville are really happy too that things are looking good to start the year. So
Absolutely.
So, and then tell me, you guys did a game pretty unique a while back where nobody had to buy tickets.
Yep. So Sunday, it was 2 Sundays ago it was against Birmingham, if I recall correctly, and Ford Center is celebrating 10 years events in downtown Evansville since replacing Roberts Stadium further east in town. And as part of the celebrations for a Sunday game, welcome the community out to catch a game on us. And certainly, it turned out to be a very enjoyable game, and certainly great for the Thunderbolts. But Birmingham played very well as well, and I believe there was at least one fight, maybe two. I can't remember exactly how many, but it was a little bit of a rough game too, but nothing too over the top. And overall, it seemed like everybody had a great time.
It's good. Hopefully, you made some new hockey fans out of it too. Some people that wouldn't regularly go to a game, but they're like, hey, it's free. Why not go check it out? And hooked for life now. So, let's Is there anything else you wanted to go into with Evansville before I try to move along here?
Not really. Obviously, we have a road trip coming up, going down to Macon this upcoming weekend, and certainly just looking to keep up the momentum from Saturday against Roanoke.
Yeah, and Macon's one of those teams that they're hungry for a win, so definitely going to have to watch out for them. If you look at the score sheet, people shouldn't be. They're like, oh, don't worry about them, but you never count a team down like
Absolutely.
that.
They have to win some point soon. So
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's not normal for teams to lose every game of the season, and I don't see anybody doing that in this league this year. It's just too close.
It'll come down to a team that takes that mentality that they're going to walk in and just win without putting the effort, and then they're going to be the one that gets surprised and gives Macon their first win.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So let's move on to Fayetteville. They I guess they handled business against Macon. They seem to just kind of keep rolling around, but there was a little excitement. I don't know if you were able to catch that, but Brian Moore took a slash at Cody Rogers and behind the net after the play had ended, and it had resulted in a little fight, a little scrum there, and then all of a sudden, you thought everything was over with, and all of a sudden out comes Taylor Cutting he left the bench, and he was just ready to go, and they never let him actually drop the gloves, but it ended up in 3-game suspension for both those guys I mentioned. But Fayetteville's just, I don't know, is Fayetteville just doing Fayetteville things? Is that why they're just rolling over people, and then maybe the frustration just overwhelmed or overcame Macon, and I don't understand what happened in that play, other than I know that a Fayetteville guy hit another guy with a stick, and then goalies were pissed. There was all kinds of chaos. I mean, let's talk about Fayetteville's side of things here. I mean, what do you make of that situation?
Well, Fayetteville, in regards to the incident, I did see a little bit of it. I was going through some Macon footage just today. I didn't look at it in depth, but certainly when you're having the things just not go your way to start the season, emotions are going to be a bit higher, and so you're going to be prone to getting involved into those types of instances. I don't know who started. I don't know the whole ins and outs of it, so I can't really say who's to blame for all of it, but certainly emotion will play a very big part in a situation like that. And going to the Marksmen, they're a team I'm not as familiar with. This is actually the team that the Thunderbolts do not play at all this regular season, not once at home or on the road. So I'm not as familiar with their systems and what's going on with Fayetteville. However, one thing I do know, this being my 4th season in the SPHL, is they've really had a big culture shift since the 2017-18 season, when they were in the basement of the league, and they're really trying to find their identity. And then came Jesse Kowalski to take over behind the bench, and that really started a shift in the right direction for the Marksmen. And then more recently, Corey Melkert, a former Thunderbolts captain and a person I know very well, who has really followed up on that. So certainly they have good leadership behind the bench. It seems like they have a good all-around group there, and certainly I expect them to be in the top half of the standings all season long.
Yeah, I'm with you there. They seem to they got a good balance of offensive talent that can score and defense, so they're looking pretty good. So let's move along here. How about we talk about Huntsville now? So they broke the league record for most games to start a season, and they broke that record against Peoria in the shootout, which is how how Huntsville's won a ton of games is in the shootout or overtime. And then Peoria comes in the next night in a very, very close game. And I had JM Piotrowski on here, and he said it was a playoff atmosphere. And and Peoria was able to knock them off and end the streak. So what's your take on Huntsville right now? I mean, are they as advertised? Are they that good, or are they one of those teams that's just kind of lucked their way into things?
Well, I certainly wouldn't say it's luck, and this is another team the Thunderbolts have not seen yet, but will play 6 times this season, and all should be very good games. From my read of the Huntsville Havoc right now, and certainly a lot of commending to them for going 12-0 to start the season. That's a tremendous accomplishment and deserves a lot of praise. But certainly they seem to be a team that just finds ways to win. They're trailing in a lot of the games they've played. A lot of games have gone to overtime or a shootout, and they just find ways to win some way or another, whether it be the goaltending comes through in a big way, they score a clutch goal at a clutch time, the defense bails them out, you name it, and they find ways to win. And those are the teams that can really find their pace throughout the whole season and in the playoffs. Those are the most dangerous teams, those that can find a way in many different ways to win. So for the Huntsville Havoc, I anticipate they're going to be a very good team throughout the season. We'll see what happens with call-ups. I know Jacob Barber turned into a pretty good pickup, to say the least, for the Havoc. I'm sure Birmingham fans are missing him quite a bit with him being gone. I'm not going to rub salt into the wound on that. But certainly he's been a tremendous pickup for the Havoc, and certainly is a big part of their success as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And he, I don't think you have to worry about rubbing salt in the wounds. He did it just fine himself that first night, opening night, whenever he went on scoring all those goals against them. So yeah. There's mixed emotions in Birmingham about Barber, but you can't hate the guy. He did great in Birmingham, and now he's doing great in Huntsville. It's almost like he never took a season off. But I feel like I talk about him too much on this podcast. But how do you not talk about a team that's doing what they're doing? So I won't talk about them too much today. I'll just agree that they're probably the most well-rounded team in the league right now, defensively, goaltending, offense. I mean, Peoria showed that they can be taken down, but it is a lot of work, and because Huntsville will find a way to get back in every game. So they were never even out of that game. I mean, it was a 1-goal game. So we'll see where things keep going. They gotta play Birmingham on Thanksgiving this week, and we'll see if Birmingham learned anything from the last time they faced them. But move along here to Knoxville. The Ice Bears, they took care of business against Vermilion County on Friday night pretty easily, kind of like a lot of games against the Bobcats this year have been. But then it ended up being overtime on Saturday night that they had to go whenever Bricado finally got the game winner there. And that was a scare for Knoxville and Knoxville fans, I think, because nobody wants to be that team that loses to the team that hasn't even got a point yet in the standings, because even Macon's got 1 point in the standings, and nobody wanted to be that team. So give me your take on Knoxville after coming out of this weekend.
Well, certainly the Thunderbolts saw Knoxville last weekend, and they played a very strong all-around game, and the goaltending was very good for them. And the Thunderbolts were a bit off, to say the least. This is one of their lows, certainly last weekend, losing 2 of 3, but finishing well. But Knoxville has been the same methods, really, under head coach Jeff Carr in Knoxville. They're a hard-hitting team. They attack you in all 3 zones. They have the good returning players like Stefan Bricado and Anthony McVeigh and Stepan Timofeyev, Colton Fletcher, Jason Price, another one. And actually, Fletcher's not a returning player, but he's a good player for them as well. Alex Palmerville, who's been in the league for a little bit of a while now. So they have that good returning group, and they're a very hard team to play against in all 3 zones, and certainly they proved that in Evansville when they defeated Evansville 4-1, although the Thunderbolts held in fairly well throughout the game. They only trailed 2-1 up until a couple empty net goals towards the end. But certainly Jeff Carr leads that group very well, and it seems like they have a pretty good system set up there.
Yeah, I think they probably have the best defensive system set up in the league, I feel, and they're just really good, and I'm going to get to see them up close and personal this week because they're going to play Birmingham twice, and so we'll see. They like I said, they're another team that just handles business. They're going through there doing good things, and which is a little bit better than the next team I want to talk about, and that is the Macon Mayhem, who they've come close a few times this year, and they've been blown out of the water a few times this year, and like I touched on earlier, Fayetteville, they beat them 5-2 Friday, and then they beat them 6-2 Saturday. And kind of what is going on in Macon from your perspective? You got any kind of idea there? I mean, what do you take on that?
Well, for making a couple things that come to mind, losing Kevin Kerr behind the bench, that stings a lot. Kevin Kerr is a fantastic coach. Not to knock on Coach Desjardins, everything I've heard from him has been very good as well. But certainly Kevin Kerr, who's been the established coach on two different stints in Macon, that's a tough act to follow, and certainly uh, that's a big impact on that side of things. As far as the players go, they had a lot of players in the 2021 season who are no longer with the team, either retiring or going back to the ECHL. And for them, they have to start from scratch, really, under that kind of situation. And so I think they're still trying to find their legs from that as well. Some teams have adjusted better from last season, having to restart with new rosters, others not, making definitely coming out the worst in that situation. But certainly bad luck can play a lot into it. I know 2 seasons ago in Evansville in 18-19, it was a rough season for us. We finished dead last in the league. We only won, I think, 12 games all season long. Didn't get our first road win until January. And a lot of that was just you couldn't get a bounce, that or injury problems or what have it. So it certainly seems like a little bit of that in Macon, where it's not necessarily they're playing bad. They just can't get a bounce to go their way.
Yeah.
And so it's horrible to go through. I can tell you that firsthand. It's tough. But you just got to hope that they're kind of developing a brotherhood mentality and just trying to buy in as best they can and hang in as a group and try to muscle their way back into, not relevancy is the word I want to use, but back into the standings while the season is still early.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. And like you said, they, they're not playing with really anybody from last year. And on top of that, I mean, a lot of teams aren't playing with people from last year, but they're not playing with their same coach, and short turnaround. And this was something that was experienced in Birmingham too, was, right before the season starts, all of a sudden there's a coaching change, and that's tough on everybody involved. And so yeah, I think once they can kind of start feeling things out and getting things rolling and have a little more consistency, we're going to start seeing them turn it around. I mean, that you can't lose every game. I just keep saying that. You just can't lose every game. That is really hard to do in hockey whenever the seasons are this long. So I got confidence that they'll be competitive and work their way up. So we'll move on to Pensacola now. So Pensacola, they up until this weekend, they'd only played Alabama teams. It's just Huntsville and Birmingham, and they kind of split those games, and they were hanging in there. And then they welcomed in Quad City, and Quad City got them the first night, and then Quad City was another streaking team that got their winning streak shut down, and this one was at the hands of Pensacola. And haven't seen Pensacola play a couple of times. Pensacola plays a very tight game. They've got the skill on offense. They've got good goaltending. I mean, how do you feel about the Ice Flyers this year? The defending champs coming back, and it's a whole new look team.
Yeah, and certainly they do have a whole new look team, but certainly one of the big people they have back is the coach, Rod Aldoff, and he's been a very good leader for that group on multiple occasions, and certainly been very valuable to have back behind the bench this season. One player I do want to talk about in Pensacola, his name is Dylan Carabia. He's actually from the same town in Florida as I am. And funny enough, we actually used to play street hockey together. And this is back when, I was in, we were both in middle school, no prospects of, going pro hockey in general. We're just going out, shooting around outside for, an hour or so before the street lights came on.
Yeah.
And, a couple blocks from my house. And, I knew later on that he'd gone to go play travel hockey. And then I saw that he was playing college hockey up until recently. I had no idea he had actually signed on to go to Pensacola this offseason, right before the season started. And then I was broadcasting our first games for Evansville and Quad City, and I see a scoreboard update, and Pensacola had scored, and it was assisted by Carabia. I'm like, wait, is that the same Carabia that I know from my hometown? And I looked up, and it sure enough was. And I actually reached out to him after the game. It was truly awesome to see someone else from my town make it up to the pro level. Yeah. And he's been doing great for them too. He's been really racking up points and being a solid contributor to that team. And so I was very, very happy to see that. I'm actually kind of sad we don't see them until the second to last weekend of the season in Pensacola. But going to the team aspect too, it seems like they're rolling pretty good. Obviously, the record is closer to 500, but they've had to play Huntsville several times, and so that kind of waters things down on their side of things. So I do think they're a better team than the win percentage indicates.
Yeah, yeah, and they were able to compete in a bunch of those games against Huntsville too. So they definitely haven't been a pushover in any of their losses. But like you said, they've had to play Huntsville a lot, and Huntsville has been rolling to start this season. So so are you telling me though that you're going to have a good little recruiting pitch trying to bring him to Evansville next year? You're gonna...
I can't comment on that because that technically be considered tampering, so I don't want
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
too
yeah,
far into that. Right?
yeah.
We're just friends, so
Yeah, no, I
obviously.
got you.
So, but no,
I
it's
got you.
awesome to see. I know for a lot of guys that are from northern states, more traditionalist hockey states, it's
Yeah,
not uncommon to see someone from your hometown or know someone. I'll say you grew up with that, is playing hockey professionally, organized. But I mean, for me, my hometown's in Sebastian. It's about 3 hours south of Jacksonville, north of Miami. This hockey's not very big in my town. It's still very much a growing sport in my area. I knew of maybe 10 other hockey fans growing up, and he was in a very small circle of hockey, fans and players in my circle. So it was unexpected, but a very pleasant surprise. So I'm very happy for him to see him doing so well.
yeah. I love whenever I see guys come from southern states and make it into the pros because it almost seems like everything's already working against them to start out with anyways because they're in the southern states, especially down around Miami. And
Yep.
so yeah, so moving along now to Quad City, they've been just straight rolling this year, and I've been kind of rough on them on this podcast. I'm like, well, most of their wins are against Vermilion County and then Peoria. They were all hurt and everything, but they came in last Thursday night to Birmingham, and I watched them up close and personal, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to eat all my words. This is a very good hockey team. I mean, they are very good. They take away space, and then they create space of their own. And I mean, both of their games went into overtime this weekend, but they're another one of those teams that you got to watch out for them. But they got Peoria and Vermilion County again this weekend. What's your feeling on the Storm this year?
Very impressed by how much they've turned it around. I was not expecting to be as good as they have been early. Certainly in goaltending, Bailey Birkin has been very good in net for them, kind of taking over that number one spot from Peter DeSalvo. A lot of the returning guys like Shane Bennett, Connor Fries have been very good for them. Head coach Dave Shinichny has done a very good job in recruiting, both in rookies and in veterans, bringing in Marcus Ortiz. He's been very good for them now on call-up for the time being, and Cole Golka just before the shutdown happened. Some of the younger guys, Tommy Stang, Michael Moran, have been very good for them as well. So they have built a very good, well-rounded team. And special shout-out to Brian Rothenberger, the president of the team, very good friend of mine, another former Florida guy, a fellow Florida guy who got the promotion to be team president and has been doing a very good job, and happy to see it.
Yeah, yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to watch Quad City, and like I said, I haven't been giving them credit, but I'm gonna give them the credit now. So let's jump on to another team. The team that Quad City beat, Birmingham, and Birmingham this last week only had one game, and it was a Thursday night game. And I wrote an article today kind of going over how I feel about the Bulls and all their miscues and this, that, and the other thing. You've got to see them play a couple of times. What do you think? What do you think's going on with that team? How do you feel about them?
Well, I think they're still a team that's trying to recover from last season's their last place finish in the 5-team SPHL, and I think they're starting to find their legs again in flashes. I think Craig Simchuk is putting a lot of work in behind the bench and kind of reinstilling that winning culture that was there in a head coach Jamie Hicks. And certainly want to wish him all the best. Jamie Hicks was a fantastic guy to chat with all the time whenever we saw the Birmingham Bulls. But certainly they have some good things going their way. I think the goaltending is better than the save percentage has shown. Austin Lotz played out of his mind for Birmingham when they came to Evansville last weekend. He denied Austin Plevy, I think, 3 times in the first period alone and kept Birmingham in it all game long. I think now they have Casey Kolzicki, and that's a huge boost for Birmingham. I think now they have a definitive top line with him, Mike Davis, and Russell Jordan, who I'm a very big fan of Russell Jordan. He plays a very solid game in all areas with a chip on his shoulder as well. That's something I don't think Birmingham has really had since they had that top line with Mike Davis, Jacob Barber, and Josh Harris. That was a very good top line they had. And I think Steven Alvo and Gonzalez have done a very good job from the blue line in establishing that good top 5. So for Birmingham, I think the big thing is just kind of getting the kinks out of their game and kind of getting things a bit more organized, and staying out of the box more. That has been a problem for Birmingham through the season, is kind of finding their discipline and taking too many bad penalties. But I think that'll be something that improves as the season goes along. So you can't sleep on Birmingham. I think for sure they're going to be right in the middle, right in the hunt for a playoff spot all season long. And I'd say odds are in their favor that they'll be in the playoffs. I mean, a lot can change as the season goes along, but I like Birmingham's chances.
Yeah, yeah, and they just actually Lots just got called up to the Icemen, so now it's everything's on Hayden Stewart's shoulders coming into this Thanksgiving week of games. So we'll see. I hope Lotzie comes back, but I also hope he stays there, because you always want to see guys progress in their careers. So yeah, I think you nailed it. Like Birmingham, they're a team that can score, but they just don't. They can't create space. I think once they figure out how to create space in their offensive zone, especially on the power play, their power play is horrible this year so far. But if they can start creating a little bit of space and getting some good looks at the net, that there's going to be some problems. That they're going to be a problem to some teams.
Absolutely.
So Roanoke, that's the next team I want to look at. They've been a team that kind of struggled early on, but they're also a team that has just been hanging in there. They go to a lot of shootouts. I feel like I say this about every team, but maybe they don't go to a lot of shootouts and overtimes. But they came out of the weekend playing against Evansville. What's your take after watching them play?
I think they're a team that's a lot better than the record indicates. They got their first wins just 2 weekends ago against Vermilion County. But you look at the teams they lost to, the Fayettevilles and the Huntsvilles, took them to shootouts and overtimes against very good opponents. And they come to Evansville 2 men shorts, and then a third short with Mac Jansen being suspended for the last game of the weekend series. And they held in quite good. Austin Rotobush has been a very good goaltender for them, and defensively led by Travis Armstrong, who brings a very good physical presence and a good leadership role as captain of that team, and showed he could find the offense as well. Had a very good offensive output on Friday night. And then they have a very good top six led by Mac Jansen, led by CJ Stubbs, led by Jeff Jones. They're a very good, well-rounded team. They're very aggressive in all 3 zones. They're a very good forechecking team. They love to hit. They love to forecheck. They're a better team than the record indicates, to say the least. I think they'll surprise more people as the season goes along.
Yeah, and if Rotobush can get on a roll like he did last year for Knoxville, everybody better look out, because he went on an unbelievable streak last year. So I think he was a 3-time player of the week, which is a new SPHL record. So
he stopped the Thunderbolts. The Thunderbolts had 4 breakaways, or at least 4, maybe 5 this weekend, and he stopped all of them. And Rotobush was very good.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the top goaltenders in the league. So yeah, and I'm with you. I don't think Roanoke's record shows what they are as a team. So last team we're going to talk to, it's going to be the Vermilion County Bobcats. They're still looking for their first win. They finally got a point, so they got that out of the way. There's little steps, and I feel like the team has this. Let me restart here. So everybody's focusing on the bad with this team right now, and I don't want to do that for a minute. So I want to talk about, I know they play in the smallest arena in the league, but they are filling that thing to 96% capacity every home game, and so the fans are there. They're supporting them, win or lose, and that's a really big deal to have that fan support. And then they raised $5,400. I want to say it was a few weeks ago, whenever for the fight against domestic violence. So the organization's doing great things in the community, and the community's supporting them. And it's, in my opinion, it's just a matter of time. And they showed this weekend against Knoxville, a really good Knoxville team, that they're starting to figure things out. They're getting things together. And I think, in my opinion, that, they're going to start getting some wins. The wins are going to start coming. And I guess, what do you think about that? You've got to see them a couple times.
Yes, and we also need to talk about Peoria before we wrap up as well. We didn't get to them either. But going to Vermilion County,
sorry,
it's all good. But going back to Vermilion County, that's a place I'm actually very familiar with. Before I was in Evansville, I was in the Federal Hockey League for 4 years. And my first professional gig was with the Danville Dashers. So that's a building and a fan base that I'm very familiar with. So fantastic to go back there. A lot of good folks there. And the owner, Ellen Tully, is a good friend of mine as well. And the new coach, Nick Niedert, is someone who I worked with closely for 4 years and is someone I can personally thank for helping me get as far as I have so far in my career. But for Vermilion County, certainly their strengths, they're a hardworking team. They don't take a shift off. They're very aggressive. They're rough around the edges in terms of skill level. But that's something that can improve as the season goes along. Their goaltending is fantastic, whether it be Chase Perry or Thomas Proudlock or Corbin Kaspersky. All three are very reliable goaltenders and have kept them in games. In pretty much every game they've played so far, up until maybe the later stretches when the dam finally bursts, and then it just downhill from there. But it seems like they have a good camaraderie amongst the players there as well. And it won't be long, I don't think, until they start surprising some teams and getting some closer results and stealing some games here and there. I don't think they're as bad a team as the record indicates. Much like we talked about Macon, who has an identical record. They're a team where if you go in there and expect to win without putting the efforts, they'll come out and they'll come out and take the game right away from you. And if you find yourself behind, then their goaltending with the lead, that's a scary proposition. That their goaltending is defending a lead. I'm not so confident you can come back 100% in those situations. They'll stone you on those kind of situations. So they're a kind of team you can't sit back on and think you're gonna walk in and take 2 points out of without putting in the work. And certainly with the coaching carousel that's gone on already, they've already gone through, I think, 2 coaches now. If there's anyone that can really solve the problems on the ice, it's Nick Niedertz. And like I said, he was someone who was very good to me. Very knowledgeable about the game, played professionally for 17 seasons. This guy's got a hockey DB list that's pages long. He's been in so many different places, but very experienced, an awesome guy, very knowledgeable about the game, and I wish him all the best.
Yeah, he's definitely a great addition to that coaching staff. So that's good. But yeah, so I guess let's move on to Peoria, which I don't know how I missed talking about them. I mean, I just interviewed a guy that plays for him. Maybe that's why they weren't on my mind. I was like, oh, I've been talking about Peoria. So Peoria, they pretty much all season their losses have been really close losses. They've played tight with everybody, and they started the season with injuries, and now they're getting everybody back, and things are looking good. And they took down the Huntsville Havoc. So yeah, let's talk about Peoria. Tell me your take on them.
Well, Peoria and Huntsville, I would say, are actually quite similar teams in some respects. They're both teams that, where if you give them an opportunity, they'll take advantage of it. You could play a 55-minute game and play it well, but you'll give them their 5 minutes, and they'll make you pay. They're a team that you have to play a 60-minute effort against night in, night out. Eric Levine, per usual, has been a very good goaltender for them. Certainly the leadership with Alec Hageman. He is certainly he could play the pest role, but he's very good at that. I like to compare him very much to a Tom Wilson at the SPHL level. He can certainly produce the offense, but can provide a little bit of that pest role that gets other teams off their game, and he performs it well. So certainly for him and a lot of the other returning guys, Alec Bear has been playing very well. Nick Neville, leading on the back end, has been very good. And they got a very solid team overall. Your other guest, Jan Piotrowski, has proven himself to be a player who can play up and down the lineup and in all situations. And those kind of players are very valuable to have throughout the course of the season. So for Peoria, I expect more of the same from them, as being a hard team to play against, a team you have to play 60 minutes against if you want to win. And certainly be a team that will be very good as the season goes along.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of touching on the Hageman thing, he's that player that everybody hates, but just if he shows up in your lineup, team. Yeah. Pensacola fans loved him last year, but now they're back to hating him. So Peoria is definitely going to be a team just like they always are. I mean, they're so well coached, and they're going to be in the talk coming into the season. And their slow start to the season, kind of dwindling towards the bottom of the standings. I don't think anybody expected it to stay like that, and they're showing that now. So they're getting back and getting players back and staying healthy. That's always a key. And so maybe if they knocked out their injury bug early on in this season, then everybody needs to look out because they're going to be they are a team to reckon with. So that's about it, man. That's all I got for this week. I really appreciate you coming on. We're definitely going to have to do this again a few times throughout this season. I love having somebody with a different perspective than mine come in and talk about all things SPHL, including their teams. You know, the Evansville Thunderbolts, which I apologize. I left that whole team out last week on the podcast. I almost left another team out this week. I don't know how I did it, but somehow I managed.
It happens. It happens. Trust me. It was nothing personal taken. I'm sure none given. So all is good.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, thanks so much for coming on, man. And we'll have to do this again. And yeah. Until next time, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So there you have it. That wraps up this week's episode of Inside the SPHL. We got a full slate of games coming on this weekend for Thanksgiving week, and you're going to be able to listen to a lot of them on the Field Pass Hockey app. Just make sure you get that downloaded. You can listen to AHL, ECHL, and SPHL games, and you can also listen to this podcast, which you probably already knew that because you're listening to it now. But until next time, thank you.